Welcome to Graceful Aging. I'm Gregory Bader, your host. Today we're going to talk about staying in your own home. Who doesn't want to stay in their own home as long as possible? Home is where it all resides, doesn't it? Louis Tenenbaum, an aging-in-place specialist from Maryland, and Patrick Roden, an aging-in-place specialist from the other side of the country in, Vancouver, Washington, right?
That's correct.
Gentlemen, thanks for being with us
It's
today.
a real pleasure to be with you.
Now, you both have had tremendous experience actually fixing the bathrooms and putting the grab bars and changing the entrances to homes. And Louis, why don't you tell us, there's a special certification that homeowners can look for in a home contractor called CAPS. What does
Right,
that stand
CAPS.
for?
It stands for Certified Aging in Place Specialist, and it's a program that was developed as a partnership by the National Association of Home Builders and the AARP. And the idea was to train contractors so that they'd be familiar with the issues both of health and person aging, as well as the issues of home modification. You know, what types of things around the home need to be adjusted to make it a better match for the demographic that they're talking about, older folks in America.
And Patrick Roden, as far as for an average carpenter or home remodeler who might want to get into the senior marketplace, or for the senior homeowner themselves, what could they expect? What kind of training does a person get before they can put those initials on their business card?
Well, you go through the CAPS training. It isn't really an extensive. It's done in a weekend. And essentially it just gives you insights into how to initially deal with older people. I think a lot of builders and remodelers aren't used to that demographic. And then they go into the specifics of what entails the CAPS training as far as actually doing the work. But mainly, I really think it's getting a person up to speed on what the needs of the elderly are.
And the homeowners that you deal with, now you also have a registered nurse initials behind your background, so you bring another discipline into it. What's the psychology for a homeowner? They do want to stay at home. Briefly, why they want to stay at home, and what does that mean to them?
Well, as we were talking about earlier this morning, 89% of people polled from the AARP study of 2005 asked if they favor aging in place over institutional living. And these are people 45 years and older. And the overwhelming majority, 89%, favor aging in place. Most of us favor aging in place. We want to stay in our homes as we get older. The problem comes, the issue is getting people convinced that the universal design, which is the design that is used to incorporate aging in place, is actually something that they need. And the barrier to that is the homeowner's personal sort of psychological perceptibility of the problem. You have to focus on that. Now, people may have a problem, but oftentimes it's a family member who identifies the problem. The older person doesn't see it as a problem. So there's an issue there. And we talked about before, usually the CAPS remodelers come to a home when they're in crisis.
Right.
And the goal is to get them there before the crisis happens.
And let's talk about how we can do that. Let's frame this a little bit. Louis, you had good parts of your presentation here in Washington, and I know you're going to be speaking further at some other conferences about what wonderful communities and what they're doing in new housing projects. But we're going to focus in the rest of our conversation with the housing stock that's out there in America.
There's a lot of it.
And it's older housing stock.
It's older housing stock. In some respects, it's not in great condition. But what we're talking about more is how the housing matches the actual needs of the residents. So we were younger when the housing stock was built. So there's a phrase, aging in Peter Pan housing, right? It was housing for people who weren't going to grow old. Because 40 years ago, we didn't grow old. You know, we ran out of money and then we died.
Right.
It's sort of conveniently around 70 or something, even 40 years ago. So now that people are living longer, the question is the house a good place for them? Has it been prepared for them? Our houses help us adapt the environment. You know, dogs sleep outside all winter. People need houses. So we have these houses, and when people only got to be 70, houses with stairs and so forth were fine. Now that people are living to be 90, those houses are no longer a good match. So they need design update. And that's what this is. It's an update.
Okay, and so now I've got a son or a daughter who's watching or a partner who's watching, and they're saying, well, I've been telling my husband, I've been telling my father he's got to change those steps or he's got to remodel the bathroom, and for whatever reason, he doesn't do it. Do both of you experience that type of, I understand your concept beautifully, but it's for somebody else, not
Hold
for
on,
me.
are you one of our clients? You sound just like it.
I mean, you see that all the time, don't you?
All the time.
All right, so why, well, we know why people are doing that, so give me a helpful hint here. Here you've been called by my son to come in my house, and I don't have sturdy railings coming up to the front door. Convince me that I need to change.
Well, first of all, it is the power of observation. If I've come into the house and I've seen some things, and they are the condition of the railings, maybe dirty places on the wall or a misplaced piece of furniture with some smudge on it, so that I can see where they're placing their hands as they move through the house with grips. And I come in and I say, you know, your son or your daughter, your family member, asked me and you've invited me into your home.
Oh, they shouldn't have told you that. That was private conversation. Why did they go and say that to you?
I think it's because they love you. And I know that's a hard thing to swallow, but your kids love you. And they invited me here to help you be comfortable with what they know you want, which is to stay in your home. So,
But Patrick, I don't need any help. I've been in this house for 37 years, and I know every pathway possible, and I'm getting around just fine. Look at me.
And Gregory, I think you've nailed it. People have a tendency to equate change with loss. So if you're going to go in and make changes, the first thing the homeowner thinks about is, what am I going to lose? Either it's an aesthetic or it's maybe a meaningful object. Something's going to change. And as we get older, we have a tendency not to embrace change.
You know, you're going to next thing Lewis is going to do is he's going to want to put in those hospital grab bars in my bathroom.
This is the issue.
I got a pink bathroom. I don't want that.
Aesthetics is a big issue. People don't want their homes to look like an institution or a hospital. And the nice thing that they're doing now with universal design products, they're incorporated either they're beautiful things to look at, they're turning obstacles into beauty, or they're making them invisible where you don't even notice them. But I know this is a hard sell unless the person can actually experience it.
And you're going to make a mess in my house, and it's going to cost me all of this money. Why? When I'm not falling? I know falls are terrible, but I haven't fallen yet. So why shouldn't I just wait until I really start feeling like I need some help?
well, that is a good idea because then you know exactly what you need. But the problem, Greg, is that when you have fallen, it's too late to get a hold of me. I may be busy. This takes some scheduling. We have to get the right things in. It's much better to take advantage of it in advance.
Well, that does take a lot of thought. So, but you know, my son or daughter, they're not here often enough, and they leave, and then when they leave, that dog they bring and the kids they bring are out of the way, and so I can see things just fine. So do I really need to do anything right now? How much time do I have?
Well, we're sort of in the business of changing human behavior, which is a daunting task. And getting people to make their futures a part of their current philosophy is not easy. One way to couch it is to say, do you love your home? Do you love your independence? Because it is at risk. And one fall can put you into an institution and you may never return. And if you like your independence, then you can take small incremental steps now to secure that.
But, you know, another thing that I can tell you is I visited my mom when she was in one of these places. And the thing that upset her most was not that she'd given up her home. She gave up another aspect of her independence, which was when she got up, when she went to sleep, what she had to eat, and who came to visit and when they did that. And those are the things that you may miss even more than your home if you fall down and get hurt or get sick and can't come home because the place isn't just right for you.
You know what's going to happen to me? You're going to change my routine, and you're going to be putting all of these things in the home, and so I'm not going to be used to it, and I'm probably going to have a higher chance of falling or having an accident when you change my routine.
That's a great point. You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to walk around the house with you right now and go through some of your routines. I even may take a picture of you doing things or write it down so I can make sure that we don't disturb your routines. I want to know what your routines are, and if you can help me understand that, then I can help you to keep your routines. That could be our goal.
You know, if I'm a son or a daughter, and now we're kind of off of my antagonistic
Oh,
role
no, we're
here,
working
but
with you.
You are good. But if I'm a son or a daughter, would that be something that they could do as well, as far as to literally take a little note card or, see the routine and see what people are using to stabilize their walking?
I don't think so. I think there could be some of that. I think it would be good for them to give me hints about what's happening. But the father-daughter-son relationship is pretty tight, I often refer back to this movie, The Father of the Bride, with Steve Martin, okay?
Sure.
Where he's sitting at the dining table, his daughter, who's mid-20s, has come back from 2 years in Europe, and she's planning to get married. And he keeps going like this because she looks 6 years old to him. Mm-hmm. And, most, and I'm the same way with my kids now, most of us don't expect to be taking advice from our kids. So removing yourself from that role instead of trying to confuse that role.
And keep butting heads like that?
Yeah. I think is better. I think it's better to employ a professional, as in so many other things, where you get a professional in there to feel their way through the relationship, someone who's familiar and interested, and let the professional do their work.
Do you find that when families call you in like that, when they follow that good advice that Lewis provided, that are you going in there to do 110% of the work, or do you start small and get bigger? What's the technique that works?
I'll give you an example. My in-laws, I was very proud of them. They understand this concept through me. It's just sort of vicariously through me. And my father-in-law went ahead and put in a raised toilet, a Toto toilet. And that was the first step. And he took it on his own, and his brother-in-law thought he was crazy for doing it. But there's a thing called self-efficacy where he made that one change, and they saw how wonderful it was to get up and off a toilet that was 18 inches high, because they're tall people anyway. Mm-hmm. That one small change caused a chain of reaction, just that one small change. And now they're doing other things, changing out light switches, securing loose rugs, without any really push on our part. It was something that was self-initiated by just one small change. So it's incremental.
That's a great story. And I think the story is about, they were somehow able to recognize that getting off the toilet, whether they articulated it or not, was a problem. So it goes to the idea of if you can get them to agree, and it may not be that simple, that there is a problem. Mm-hmm. And that maybe our first step is to solve that one problem. So it's not my agenda. It's their agenda. It's the problem that they've identified, the problem that they can recognize, or that in a tour of the house, that tour of the house I was talking about, where they're showing me how they do things. And then you can point out or say, oh, I see. Don't you have some trouble with this? And then they go, well, yeah, how do you know that? I say, well, that's my business. I try to make that easier for you.
And we're going to come back and give some more hints for people after we take a short break and show people how they can reach more information on this. So stay right with us, and we'll be back in just a moment. Well, once again, we're back on Graceful Aging with Lewis Tenenbaum from Maryland and with Patrick Roden from the other side of the country, Vancouver, Washington. Gentlemen, you've got so much great information about what people can do to stay in their own home longer. Help me with this little confusion that I have about this concept that I read about in the art magazines and in Time magazine, aging in place. Does it mean aging in place and there I can stay and it's my house, close the doors, no changes for the rest of my life?
Well, I think the term aging in place, people have a bit of a misnomer that it's aging within just four walls and nothing else. And Lewis has taught me this, that aging in place actually means an extended boundary to incorporate your community. So you're aging not only in your home, but also in your community. And that includes the grocer, where you know the name of the grocer, the coffee shop where they know your coffee in the morning, a place at the park where you walk your dog. All these things are quality of life issues, and it's not just the four walls that you live in. It's an extended boundary that actually makes the experience of aging enriched and worth doing.
The Palisades neighborhood is like any town, anywhere, USA. An idyllic neighborhood no one wants to leave.
The idea of going to a nursing home or an old age home just horrifies me. I'm going to stay right here as long as I can.
So keeping connected to your community with
to
the bus lines and
it's
everything.
One of the main reasons to keep you in your home and in your community.
And I just say, no, I don't need to make any changes in my house. Is that what aging in place means or not?
No, aging in place means that you know, like anything, like when you go on a trip, you go and buy some things that you might need, maybe a different kind of pill box or a place to keep your toothbrush or something like that. There's all parts of your life that keep changing, and as it changes, you make adjustments in the routines, but also in the accoutrements and the sort of technologies, the tools, the little things that you have in your life. So when you change, you know, you should increase the lighting, for example. It would be nice to have a light that pops on when you get out of bed so that you have a good path at night just to the bathroom. And since we all know, Patrick's holding his glasses, we all know it's a little harder to read as you get a little bit older. It's a little harder to see at night on the path to the bathroom as you're a little bit older. So why not get a little light added to the pathway just for that?
Okay, so aging in place is really an evolving concept, improving our place.
Very dynamic.
Okay.
It's not static.
And we're not static. So it's a match.
Absolutely.
You know, that's the thing, is trying to just match. You know that your knees aren't so good about getting out of chairs. And you may make an accommodation by sitting at the kitchen table because that chair is easier to get out of than the comfy chair that you used to like, but it's no longer so comfortable. And the same thing, we want to keep making our homes comfortable. They're our homes.
And we're looking for what's called a person-environment fit, the best person-environment fit.
For that person.
For that person. And it's very dynamic, and it's labor-intensive because it's continually moving. It's in flux.
Well, let me tell you a bit.
Well, let me just finish
Sure,
on that,
sure.
because it's really neat that Patrick said that, and he's holding his glasses, right? Now, those of us who are using reading glasses, I have mine in my pocket right now.
I just have one contact. So
Okay,
that's my,
so there's different ways to accommodate, but the fact is that you need the glasses and then you don't, you know, partly depending on the light in the room. So there's more, it's very dynamic because there are a lot of factors. So it's a combination, this person-environment fit is a combination of the person and the tools they use in that environment. So it's an enabling environment or not enabling. So if you need a hearing device, hearing aids are okay now. People have gotten over the stigma that may have been attached to them 40 years ago. You can't go someplace without your hearing aid and hear. So you make that accommodation because it actually helps you fit the environment. And that's the same sort of thing we're doing.
I can see why smart people like our audience are smart people. They are looking, they make strong decisions to improve their life, and so the advice you gave, they're going to be telling their neighbors about how to reach through to them. But our viewers are smart people who know to seek out CAP specialists like Patrick Roden and Louis Tenenbaum. Give them some helpful hints. Let's walk through a house and some economical yet effective techniques that they might look for in their own home that they could improve. Let's start with the exits and entries to a house. What should they look at? What could they do?
Well, I'd like to start even before that, if I might. There is a physical component.
As long as you bring all this in 8 minutes.
Well, I'll bring it all in, but there's a physical component to this. Your body needs to be available to you to age in place as well. So there's a physicality here. So with me, it always starts with the physical. So there has to be that component. Not just the physical environment, but the physical body needs to be in shape. So that's an important part of this issue. Entry and exit, you can talk to that issue. Go ahead.
Well, ideally, you have a no-step entry.
Being able to go out the front door and be on the front porch. Front porch is a social place. you know, hanging out, enjoying the evening, waving at the neighbors. You know, living happens in that kind of space.
You know, like you go to the supermarket or almost any place now, because of the ADA, we've upgraded the environment so that there aren't steps. And that may be difficult at your home. So short of that, you want to make the entry easy. And the things you want to do are make sure that the porch is in good shape so that nothing's going to trip you. There isn't a loose board. You want to put grips very well at the rail on the left and the right, because the fact is, if you're holding something in your left arm because you have more strength in that arm, but you want a grip, you want it on this side when you're going up and the other side when you're going down. So check the railings, make sure they're long enough. You don't want to be reaching out at the top to grab the rail. You want it to extend from the top. You want to look at the steps, because the old style was that the steps stuck out like an inch, and that can now start to trip you. So you can actually just put a little wedge there that allows your foot to glide up over that if it's going a little slowly that day. And if you look at steps in commercial places, they don't have that little nose sticking out anymore. And then also at the doorway, because there's probably another step from your stoop to the house, put another grip there. Put another grip, like put a rail, maybe matching the other rails, that allows you to have a hand grip as you're going up that last step.
Are these thousands of dollars that you're talking about?
Well, there are things you can do in a weekend. You can have the son-in-law come over and change out the round doorknobs to lever handles. That can be done in a weekend. I remember reading an article recently. There was a young gentleman who wanted to buy his father-in-law a gift. And the father-in-law has everything, doesn't need anything. And he said, you better think of something because I'm going to buy you a gift anyway. And the father-in-law thought, you know what? I'm 86. He said, I can't climb up a ladder anymore. If you change out 3 light bulbs to brighter light bulbs, that's what I want for Christmas.
Good Father's Day present.
And it was wonderful. When you get older, you think about that. Who's going to change my light bulbs?
Now let's move to the stairs. So a lot of houses have stairs to the basement or stairs to an upper level, 3, 4, 7 steps, whatever. What can homeowners look for, or family members, on stairs to make cost-effective improvements there?
Well, similarly, you've got to check the railings, make sure there aren't loose carpets or rugs on the stairs. The lighting is important. If you don't have it, it used to be really hard to get a switch at the top and the bottom if you didn't have it, but now there's these remote switches, so you can do that. But I had one client, actually this was a pro bono client a few years ago, and they wanted me to improve the stairs down to the basement so she could get to the washer and dryer.
Right.
And it's really hard to improve the stairs because they're figured just to fit, headroom and all that stuff. And these stairs were really bad. A lot of basement stairs used to be very steep and very difficult to travel. We actually moved the washer and dryer upstairs. That was cheaper than fixing the stairs. And there was room in the kitchen area in that particular house, or maybe in your pantry area, to move the washer dryer upstairs. So now, in some respects, we may want to eliminate the use of the stairs.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Just eliminate them entirely. And the mantra of CAPS people and Aging in Place Universal Design is to put everything on one floor. Have your kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, and washer and dryer on one floor.
Oh, but now you're taking off the second level of my house.
Well, if
you're cutting it right in half, aren't you? Yeah.
Well, if you're going to do anything, that may be the most savvy thing to do, is to do one floor living. And the bottom, that your 30-year-old grandkid that's moving back in can live downstairs.
Or just the idea of preparing. You may not have to do that, but why not make a room so that there's a full bath on the first floor for a guest? Or because a lot of new homes have first floor masters. A lot of new homes now have 2 masters. And that's kind of the trend. So why not prepare your house for the growing trend in the industry of a first floor master? Or you can continue with the second floor master. And you know what? If you just don't feel like going upstairs one night after watching, I was going to say Johnny Carson, but I'll date myself, Jay Leno. After watching Jay Leno, you can just sleep downstairs and use that bathroom.
So a whole creative approach to your house of how you use it kind of works off that dynamic. Okay, let's move to the bathroom now. The beyond the kitchen, probably the most used place in the house, and
possibly the most dangerous.
So many dangers.
Yeah.
So how do I look at a bathroom, and what type of easy changes, proper changes can I make, say under $500?
Well, I think initially, you can't shoot a cannon out of a canoe, so you need a good foundation. So you have to think about slippery floors, non-slip floors. You can take those little decals that you saw in many old bathtubs in hotels of the starfish or
Right.
whatever, and just put those in the bathtub. Initially, those are probably $298.
Oh, but I like my throw rugs. You know, they match.
Okay, if you like a throw rug, if it's really important to you, don't wear it out. Hang it on the wall. I used to actually say this with the rug that the grandchildren had made. Oh, they made that in art class. Well, don't step on it. Put it up on the wall.
Good
Get
point.
it
That's a
off
good
the
point.
floor because throw rugs can be really dangerous. Now, some people will say use two-sided tape to put it down, but the other thing is that most of them have a high pile. That's part of the idea. So that high pile, so you're now switching from low pile to high pile. If you don't get your foot quite up over that pile, it can be really dangerous.
And grab bars, we know about
Grab
those.
bars,
But
certainly.
I've got my towel rack on the outside of my shower door. Isn't that good enough? And I've got one on the inside too. It's good
That's
solid
actually one of
aluminum.
my pet peeves.
Yeah.
I actually like to take off the shower doors. Here's why. When you're bathing a kid, those shower doors are in the way. You can only get to half the tub. If you take them out, store them in the basement because maybe the next owner is crazy enough to want them again. Take them out, clean up the edges, and put a curtain. Now that curtain gets you fully out of the way, and we've lost that towel bar, which really wasn't designed to be a grip. And the best thing in the bathroom is that everything that you might grab is actually strong enough to hold you. If it wasn't designed for that, that's not what it's good for. So it's kind of like using a Coke bottle to roll a pie. A rolling pin works really well. Wine bottle works okay because it's solid. But Coke bottles have curves and you can't roll a pie with it. You've got to use the tool for what it was designed.
Don't you have to think as well of not just your own weight of holding it to inch out, but those danger points that we don't want of slipping and putting that force on a bar.
Exactly.
And they talk about putting backing in the walls behind the tub and the
But
bath-
that
the toilet
becomes
as
more
well.
expensive.
It is more expensive, and it's cheaper done initially.
Well,
There's
we've-
one product I really love called the Super Pole, which presses down
Yeah,
on the
that's a nice
floor
product.
and the ceiling, and it allows you to put in a good grip without putting any screws in anywhere.
And there are a lot of products now that are aesthetically pleasing and actually delight your senses. There's a company called Great Grabs that do wonderful grab bars that are actually delightful to look at.
Shouldn't I always, though, get some professional input instead of looking at just following maybe the 800 numbers that come on the end of late night shows or morning?
You mean in order to find someone to do this?
Right.
Well, for example, the CAPS people are listed on the AARP website. And another place to go is look at your aging community resources. Because the people who are paying attention to this market are probably the ones who know about
Or
it.
your local area agency on aging will have some information as well.
And that can allow, so we can allow Americans to stay in their own homes safely longer and live in their castle, their dream. Gentlemen, thank you so much, Louis Tenenbaum and Patrick Roden. You've helped countless people across America stay in their own home, and I hope you can do that safely, without injury, so that you can enjoy everything that house has meant for you for all of these years. Thanks for being with us on Graceful Aging. We'll see you next time.